what we were doing in the 70s, and trust me, I was there living the 70s. What we were doing, we were putting the philosophies and the idealism of the 60s into real life. We were actually living those things that we had demonstrated for and marched for in the 60s, and we were enjoying the hell out of the 1970s, let me tell you.
A lot of the music that came out of the 60s was extremely serious. It was political, it was protest, it was etc., things along those lines. And one of the basic things that we did was bring fun back into entertainment.
During the Vietnam War, people weren't going out at night as much. They were much more serious-minded, and even then I think it would have been a good idea because people deserve a little fun in their life.
You're talking about, you know, people getting sent off to a war that nobody could understand. Every college professor was against it. So, and you know, you're a young, impressionable person going through school trying to get a good education. All of a sudden, you know, you're thinking, gosh, my life is coming to an end. We may not even make it to 19 or 20 years old. So when the 70s came around, it was like somebody opened the window and let in a breath of fresh air.
I think what happened in the 70s was people who were young in the late 60s were starting to grow up. These people had memories of such mystical, wonderful times in the 60s, and they all put suits on. And all of a sudden, people cleaned up their act. It was a massive cultural change.
Disco was always with us. Disco kind of had come from Europe, where it had been very, very big. You know, in the early 70s, it came to America as another coming sort of thing of, here's another music form. But then it kind of evolved into, well, it became dance music.
The European idea of the discotheque, which meant literally a record library, profoundly impacted an American underground scene brewing in New York City in the early 1970s.
The gay community was becoming more organized, and a part of the organization was, you know, having these hot clubs, underground hot clubs, and having the DJs play music in those clubs to keep them going that people were not hearing on the radio, but they could get you out on the dance floor and have you dancing for, you know, all night.
I went to gay clubs, and that's where I really learned to dance from the gay guys, because they weren't afraid to really move it around.
If you wanted to have a hit record first, go to the underground, either a black, gay, or Latino clubs, and usually they were all three combined, and find your support there.
Inside urban nightclubs around the country, the tide was changing. Dance bands were cast aside in favor of club DJs spinning records from the genres of music which nourished the roots of disco.
The roots of disco, the immediate roots of disco, you would have to say were in Motown and the soul music of Philadelphia of the late 60s.
Here I come, you can't hide. I'm gonna find you.
I don't care what kind of orchestra or band you have, it always starts at the rhythm section. Your basic instrument is keyboards, bass, drums, guitar. We had the key guys, Norman Harris, Ronald Baker, and myself, and Leon Huff, who played keyboards. So the four of us could go in the studio and just cut. That is the foundation, the bottom of it, and that is the Philly sound.
Earl Young created the disco beat with the song The Love I Lost, an infectious beat that pumped you up and made you get out onto the dance floor.
When I did The Love I Lost, disco wasn't even around, and I had an idea of to cut something that was an up-tempo beat to make people dance with it, and I think that was the start of disco. Disco is really a 4/4 on your foot, boom, 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 boom.